And we'd like to welcome you here tonight to our monthly public safety awareness meeting. Just as a background, we've been holding these meetings once a month for the past 4.5 years. And they're done in an effort to make sure that we remain in constant communication with all of you and to make sure that your concerns are shared with us. Before we begin, I would just ask everyone to please place their phones on vibrate. Please keep your conversation to a minimum. I do want to recognize some of the officials that were joined here tonight by. First, we have our patrol commander, Captain Glenn Cronin. He is here representing our police chief, Kevin Mollis, who is at an opiate epidemic conference right now. To his right, we have our fire chief, Jack Colangeli, and then we have our public works director, Bob Knox, and then finally we have Captain Mark Gackham, who is the lead of our detectives. We knew there were some issues that residents here tonight have identified to us about some recent burglaries, so he is going to be here as a resource to speak on those. In the audience, I do want to acknowledge our Counselor at Large, Debbie DiMaria, and also to my right we have Alexander Castillo Nunez, who works for State Senator Jason Lewis. So if you had any issues regarding the state, he is here as a resource for you all. And then finally, I do want to thank, as always, Brian Biggie from Malden Access Television. He has been with us for the past 4.5 years, making sure that these meetings are aired to the community as a whole. So what we typically do is, in addition to my introductory remarks, we then hear just a few minutes from the various panelists, and then most importantly, we want to turn it over to you and get to the questions that you may have about what's happening in our city. So without further ado, let me call up our Captain and Patrol Commander, Glenn Cronin.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. As Mayor Christensen said, my name is Glenn Cronin. I'm the Patrol Commander. And before I get into the specific issues with Ward 3, Chief Mollis a couple of weeks ago had addressed the City Council and other members of the public in City Council chambers. He talked about where we are as a city statistically, and I just want to touch upon that before we get into Ward 3 specifically. So I'll just touch on this briefly. In 2014, the Malden Police Department responded to 31,806 calls for service. In 2015, the Malden Police Department responded to 34,132 calls for service. This was a 7.3% increase, which was actually 2,326 more calls in a 12-month period. Included within calls for service are directed patrols, and a directed patrol is exactly what it sounds like. That's when we have an officer in a cruiser or an officer on patrol or on foot patrol, and we assign them to a specific area at a specific time. And directed patrols are usually based on information that is provided to us or an ongoing problem, and it's proactive in nature. So they are included within that. But directed patrols citywide in 2014, we had 3,825. In 2015, we had 7,160, which was an 87% increase in directed patrols. And I'll tell you why that's important in a few minutes. It's very important. There was an increase of 3,335 directed patrols in a 12-month period. I'm going to talk to you about NIBAS. NIBAS is an acronym. It's the National Incident-Based Reporting System. It's administered by the FBI. It's a voluntary program, and there are over 6,000 cities and towns, local, state, federal, and tribal that contribute their statistics to the FBI. It's done on a monthly basis. There are two major parts to NIBAS, Part A and Part B crimes. Our goal is to drive Part A crimes down and to drive Part B crimes up. Part A crimes are actually 46 designated offenses within 22 different categories. What they are is all crime. Every crime that is generated in regards to a crime is in Part A. Part B is a little different. Part B is 21 designated offenses, but they're all officer initiated and they all culminate in an arrest. So this is important. Part A offenses citywide, we had 2,365 in 2014, and in 2015 we had 2,095. That was an 11.4% decrease in Part A offenses, which is a good thing. That's driving the crime rate down. There were 270 less Part A offenses in 2015. Part B offenses is what we have control over as the Malden Police Department. In 2014, we had 113 Part B offenses. In 2015, we had 167 Part B offenses. This is an increase of 54, resulting in a 47% increase in Part B offenses. And by doing this, we drive the crime rate down. So I just wanted to touch on that citywide, and right now I'll get into Ward 3 specifically, which is of course why we're all here. In Ward 3, in 2014, in total NIBUS offenses, that's every report written in regards to a crime, we had 207. In 2015, we had 177 total NIBUS reports. This is a 14.5% drop. So that means we had a 14.5% drop in the crime rate in Ward 3. So Ward 3, in effect, in 2015 enjoyed a 14.5% decrease in crime, while the rest of the city also experienced a 9% decrease in crime. So both great statistics. As it relates to Part A crimes in Ward 3, in 2014 we had 197, and in 2015 we had 165. This was a 16.2% decrease in Part A crimes, which is great. That's what we want to do, is drive that down. Part B crimes, we had, in 2014 we had 10, and in 2015 we had 12. Although it was only 2 more, it resulted in a 20% increase based on the numbers. And I'd like to get back to the Director of Patrols in Ward 3. In 2014 we had 310, and in 2015 we had 472. This was also a 52.3% increase in Director of Patrols in Ward 3 alone. But this is just one side of statistics, and this is why I want to mention an issue that Mr. DeLacy had brought up. It's a very valid point, and I want to address it in regards to burglary. When it says burglary, that's how it's categorized in NIBUS, but in Malden it's a B&E, a breaking and entering. So when I say B&E, that's what I mean the burglary category. In 2014, we had 17 B&Es in Ward 3. In 2015, we had 26. This was, of course, an increase of 9 B&Es. But as I've always said, there's always a narrative behind every statistic. There's a story behind every number. And what I mean by that is when you're looking at a B&E, you envision someone breaking into somebody's house, stranger on stranger crime. But I'm going to give you a few examples to help maybe allay your fears in Ward 3. Of the 9 additional B&E reports, and I just took a quick sample, 3 were reported as attempts to commit a crime, to commit a break. But when they're reported to NIBUS, it goes in as a B&E. An example of one of these, we had a new gentleman moved into Maple Street. He was in there for about a week. He was asleep in his basement apartment in the morning. He heard a noise at his bedroom window. He looked up to the window. He saw 2 hands on the window. Of course, he called 911. He ran outside of his apartment. He didn't locate anybody, but a Verizon employee, which was nearby, said he did see a white male wearing black shorts walking away from the area. We weren't able to locate him. But my point is, he didn't break into the apartment, but it goes down as a statistic, as a B&E. So another example of an attempt, I think it was on Rockland Ave. Homeowner got home, found his storm door window was smashed. That went in as an attempted B&E. There was no entry made to the house. But again, statistically, it looks like it's a B&E, although because it's just the structure of NIBUS when we enter the report. Domestic related events are important. I picked out 2 because of the new domestic violence law. I can't get into names, addresses, or dates or times, but 2 of these reported B&Es were ex-boyfriends and an ex-husband who made re-entry into the house after he was told to leave. So they went down as B&Es, and my point of that is it's not stranger on stranger crime. These are 2 domestic partners, or former domestic partners. Another example of a B&E, it goes down as a break. A snowblower was stolen from a garage. That goes down as a number, as a B&E in the city of Malden. So it's not what we classically envision as a breaking and entering. And one last example in that area, I think it was on Glenwood Street, a coin-operated laundry machine. Someone broke into the box and stole quarters out of it. That also went down as a breaking and entering. But Mark Twain said years ago, There's lies, damn lies, and statistics, and I don't mean that in a negative way because I think statistics are great, because it gives us an idea of where we were, where we are, and where we're going to. So I do believe in them strongly. But my reason for saying that is there is a story behind every statistic, there is a narrative, and it's important to know the whole picture, to know the story behind that. So in relation to that, I also want to talk about a term in law enforcement circles that we call a crimogen. And a crimogen is one particular person or a place. It's a person who requires a significant amount of police responses to his home or a location, and they're an anomaly. And in the case of Ward 3, based on my experience, there are 3 individuals that I would talk about tonight. One of them is Derek Bouchard. He's a career criminal. He's broken into multiple houses in Ward 3. His listed address is in Dorchester. A lot of these people come in on the train, go into our neighborhoods, break into a house, get back on the train, and go back to where they had come from. Derek Bouchard was arrested by us with a female accomplice. And this is a good example of the community in Ward 3 getting together, and this is why we arrested this individual. We had a gentleman on Glen Street. He was working on his house. He had the ladder up against the house. He was painting. He sees a male and a female walk by. He notices they don't want to make any contact with him, which he thought was a little odd. And about 2 or 3 minutes later, he heard a loud bang. He climbs down the ladder. He walks up to Glenwood Street, and he sees that same individual, the male party, jumping a fence. He calls us right away. He gave us a great description of both of them. We cordoned off the area. We ended up getting them, and we arrested them for that break. About a week later, of course, he was released from court. He was arrested again as a result of Detective Bureau. He was doing another break, and he inadvertently dropped his license in the windowsill. So we were able to get an arrest warrant based on the detective's homework in that case. But my point is on that, Derek Bouchard is probably responsible for 3, 4, 5, or 6 more crimes that we just don't have enough probable cause to place on him. But the good news is he's in jail right now because of the arrests. So there are 2 other people that I'd like to talk about that create an anomaly like this. It's Michael Denning and Christopher Myers. They broke into a house on Glenwood Street. A neighbor called, we cordoned off the area, we surrounded the house. One of the individuals knew that we were outside and figured he would go for it. He came right out the front door and he was put right down in prone position, patted down, and he was arrested. The second individual remained in the house, hiding in a bedroom, under a bed. Unbeknownst to us, there was a gun in close proximity to him. We grabbed him, we pulled him out from under the bed. The gun was recovered. Once we ran the serial number on the gun, it was stolen from a house the week previous on Dutton Street. So of course, he was also charged with this crime. But these 2 individuals were also responsible for a large number of breaks. They're also in custody. So my point is that there is a causal relationship, and this is the bigger issue, that these crimes are driven by the opiate crisis that we find ourselves in. They're trying to feed their habit, and they'll do anything to get property that they can pawn, to get cash, to pay for their drugs. So that's another issue that the entire Northeast is dealing with. But I can say, and I feel good about standing here tonight, I can tell you since January 1st, Ward 3 has not had 1 breaking and entering. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Yes, sir, Councilor.
We're going to have the other speakers first. We'll take questions after we hear from the other panelists, okay?
Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
could he review the stats in Ward 2, because I'm right across the street here,
Yeah.
if you don't mind.
Do you want to hear from the other panelists, or we do that now?
Well, I wanted to hear from the same statistics.
Yeah,
in Ward 3.
he's going to be there. Let me just have the other folks speak. I do want to acknowledge Councilor Condon is here representing Ward 2. And we also have off to my right, John Matheson, the councilor for Ward 3. So next we're going to hear from our Fire Chief, Jack Colangeli. And this is, Councilor O'Malley as well. Thank you, Councilor, for being here. It is bittersweet because this will be Chief Colangeli's last meeting as chief. He's retiring April 1st. So I hope you all join me and give him a round of applause after 36 years.
Thank you, everyone. It's always a privilege to come up and talk to a lot of individuals and tell you how great the fire department is that you have to have. And through the help of the mayor, we swore in 5 new firefighters on Friday. They've already been to the academy. They're out there working and working very hard for all the citizens of Alton. This is the time of the year when winter's coming to an end and people start to clean out their houses, do some spring cleaning. Just want to make sure that a couple of weeks ago you had to move your clocks forward. We always recommend you change the batteries in your smoke detectors and your carbon monoxide detectors. It's always a great idea. Using 9-volt batteries in your smoke detector and AA batteries in your carbon monoxide detectors. They're the best inventions to come down the pike. They save more lives than firemen ever will. So make sure you check those smoke detectors. Once again, if you have any questions at all about the placement of smoke detectors, how they work, the fire prevention staff from the local fire department will come out at no cost, show you where they go, they'll test them for you, and in some cases they'll even put them up for you. So the number is 781-397-7383, and call anytime. We're always there, we're there, we care.
Thank you once again, Chief. And then finally, we're going to hear from Public Works Director Bob Knox.
Good evening, and thanks for coming tonight. We appreciate it and look forward to these monthly meetings in different parts of the city to give you an update of specific departments on what's going on. I'm happy to say that now at the end of March, we're done with the winter, although it wasn't like last winter. I'll take this every year. We've moved on now to our spring activities. We started pouring concrete 2 weeks ago. We have pours lined up for Tuesday and Wednesday in both Wards 2 and Ward 3. We continue to go through the C-Click Fix request system. If any of you don't know what that is, that's the application that you have on your smartphone that you can request anything from trash, potholes, sidewalk repairs, tree plantings, anything that you can think of that you need service in the city of Malden. And that's what we use for our database to collect information on requests from residents. Also, we're preparing the parks for the spring sports and continuing on with tree work and everything else that we do with the Department of Public Works to serve the residents of the city of Malden. I'll be here all night afterwards if anyone needs to speak to me privately or any questions that you may have. I'd be happy to answer you this evening. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so now the part that we enjoy the most is hearing from you, and so we'll turn it for questions. We'll open it up for questions. In the back?
Hi. So I live in Ward 3, and I belong to the next door for Malden. I think it's actually Malden West.
Sure.
And I also follow Secret Fix and use it, and you guys are great and very responsive. But I've noticed lately a real uptick in people reporting suspicious activity and even crime through those outlets. And so, for example, someone would post something on Nextdoor, and another neighbor will say, "Well, did you call the police?" And they'll say, "No." And, someone a week or two ago reported they thought they heard gunshots, and they put it on Secret Fix, which is not, they're constantly saying on there, this is not live.
Sure.
It was a Sunday. It turned out it was kids playing with firecrackers, so it was not a big deal. But so I'm asking if you guys are aware that people are trying to report that way, and what your plan is to, first of all, not encourage, discourage people from reporting that way, because it's not the right outlet, I'm assuming, and also, what you can do to encourage people to stop avoiding calling the police when they should call the police, because I see it as people just not wanting to bother you, or, feeling like they're being a nuisance.
Right.
So I think that's just, I see that, and I feel like the police don't necessarily always know, and people assume that you do. So
Well, we want to, that's the dichotomy between these different applications that we're now using in the city of Malden. But believe me, after 4 years, the good outweighs the bad.
Yeah.
But I think the way we address it is with what Captain Glenn Cronin's about to tell you. But before I turn it back over to him, I do want to say thank you to you and all the other folks here, because it was, your efforts that led us toward joining Nextdoor. We actually have someone now at the police department that's monitoring and taking notes on issues that are submitted.
Okay.
But on the one in particular you're talking about, I know Chief Molis as well as Captain Cronin have very strong feelings about people posting items on there when in reality they really should be calling the police. So let me have him up just to address that.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Nextdoor.com. We have our crime analyst, Rob McIntyre. He has the ability to monitor, but he doesn't really have the ability to look at people's communications between each other. So we can only put a message on there. So it kind of takes us out of that loop. And on the other hand, a program like C-Click Fix and Nextdoor.com sometimes oversell themselves, and as a result, people think that they can go to the computer, like you had mentioned, reports fired. I'm very familiar with that call. I actually had it up there as well, and as it did turn out, someone put another note on C-Click Fix that they know it was kids with firecrackers and they had run when we were heading up there. But I often say that it's not to take the place of a phone call to the police department. All we simply need to do is call 911. That's going to get us there as fast as possible. Programs like C-Click Fix are tremendous. They're great for chronic issues, but if you've got someone screaming for help and we're typing it on the internet, it's not real time. It's when we look and we go into our email to get a hold of it. So we don't want it to replace a simple phone call to the police. And we definitely want the community involved, because if you see something, you have to say something. And that's the only way that we're going to know that something's going on. And that's the only way we can attack the crime. And that's the only way we can get to it and dismantle it before it becomes a big issue. But we just want people to call the police station in that type of situation.
So is that something that the gentleman you referenced, could he repost on Nextdoor to remind people on there that that's not the place to put things?
It's funny you mentioned that. We talked about that this morning.
Okay.
So he's going to be on there very soon with that type of message.
Okay, thank you.
And you're welcome.
Hello there. Thank you for having me. Just to add to Captain Cronin's statements there are other ways that you can report things to the station. Some are not always monitored, but I know a lot of people like to remain anonymous. We would prefer a known source. It helps us in many ways, especially when we're investigating a crime known against anonymous. I can say you can go on the website, maldenpd.com. There is a little tab there, tip 411. You can click on that. It is an anonymous site. It's a link. It's not monitored 24/7. So like Captain Cronin said, if you heard gunshots, I wouldn't suggest that would be the venue to use. But if you see something that is not an immediate response, then you could add it to there. So you could maybe use it as another resource. Twitter and Facebook we do monitor, but once again, it's not 24/7. 911, when you call from a cell phone, that's geocoded. So when you call 911 from a cell phone, we're going to know within a certain amount of area and space where you are in most cases. If you call 911 from your residence, that's obviously a little different from that residence. 911 from your cell phone is going to take a little bit more time, because it's going to go to the state police. They're going to find out where you are, and then they're going to route that to the appropriate department, be it Malden. You can always still call 322-1212. That is not a 911 system. It is recorded, but I will say it is somewhat anonymous. I think we might be able to find out who the person is if it's something serious, but those are other avenues that you have to contact the station. We really welcome people to call. That's why we're out there. Thank you.
Just back to the positives, we were just talking, C-Click Fix just sent us their latest statistics, and it turns out that Malden is second in the nation in communities that are under 150,000 people in reporting and resolving issues. So, again, that's tribute to all of you for taking the step to get involved with that application. It is making a difference for us. Other questions? Please.
Can you give me some kind, I'm speaking for about 3 of us on Dexter Street.
Okay.
What the rules are of owning a driving school in the hours that they... It is kind of funny because I learned to drive in the cemetery. We have as many as 3 and 4 in between Clifton and Maple. And they're nervous, so they get caught vertically on the road. So, and then there are some that don't have any business sign on it, so
Yeah.
obviously.
I'm not sure if I could speak to that, or, are you saying that, did you say there was the rules of a school operating in a residential neighborhood, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but the hours, because sometimes they go until 10 o'clock at night, they're still learning how to drive and start.
Could you- Okay, I'm gonna bring Captain Cronin back up.
Yeah, that situation came up last year in regards to driving schools, what they can and what they can't do in neighborhoods. They can pretty much drive around in a neighborhood just like any other car during any time. We really can't regulate that, but the way we approach it was if there was certain times, even when school is going in or when school's getting released, if they're in the area, what I did last year is I called 4 companies and I asked them not to have the students driving in that area during those times, and every one of them complied. So that's probably the best approach for us. So if you do find out who it is, let us know, and I'll make the phone calls myself. We'll take care of it.
On the driving school issue,
Sure.
I live on Dexter Street as well. It is a nightmare. They come out at like 6:45 in the morning, and they're going down to the Malden, the Center Tea stop. They're gonna kill somebody down there. I'm telling you, that's not safe at all.
Okay. You say 6:45 in the morning?
It's about 7 o'clock, between 7 and 7:08.
Do they have a sign on the car, do you know?
Yeah, usually it says Joe's.
JLM.
JLM is the other one, and I'm telling you, they're gonna kill somebody down there.
I'll make some phone
I'm
calls.
down there every day about 7 o'clock.
I'll make some phone calls.
Okay, other questions?
Yes. Could I ask a question? Whenever they have the telephone or the gas company come out and they dig up the sidewalk,
Yeah.
and instead of putting back concrete, why doesn't Malden make sure they put concrete back instead of just pouring?
Temporary patch?
Yes,
Yeah.
temporary patch.
We could speak to that. Which street?
Well, they fixed Grape Street, I'm not on Grape. They fixed that Woodland Road now.
Sure.
But mine was like that, and they fixed it this year.
Yeah.
However, all over the city, it's like that.
Yeah, we can address that. There are, as you can imagine,
'Cause
different
I do a lot of
scenarios
walking, yes.
as to why some are temporary patches, et cetera. But let me
It
call
doesn't look
up
good.
Bob Knox to speak to that, okay? And then we're gonna get to your question after, okay? Go ahead, Mr. Knox.
If the sidewalks are existing concrete sidewalks, a lot of times in the off-season, in the winter months, they use, it's a temporary patch, which is an asphalt patch, but if it is a concrete sidewalk, part of their restoration work is to go back and do concrete, so a lot of times what they'll do is temporary patch it so it's not a trip hazard in the meantime with asphalt, and then they group them together when they have multiple ones in the same area for a truck to dig them out and then pour concrete. So I know it's a little time consuming, it's at no cost to the city. We do get them sealed up, but if it is an existing concrete, they are required to put concrete back.
I was with it there for 3 years before they replaced it, you know.
On Woodland?
Woodland Road.
Yeah,
yes.
Woodland was just done over completely.
I know that. That's what I'm saying. It's done over now, but it was there about 3 years before they did it over.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of walking, and it's all over the city.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else noticed.
Yeah, no, they do, absolutely, you're correct, they do. They do temporary patch with asphalt until they can go back and put concrete. And Woodland Road was pretty, like I said, that was done
It was a
complete.
mess.
It was, and now it's one of the best streets in the
Right,
city, so, but thank you.
Anyway, thank you.
Okay, go right ahead.
Yes, I have actually something to report in terms of a safety issue with Glenwood
Okay.
Street, and I also have a comment about crime. Regarding Glenwood, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, the lines in the road were repainted.
Okay.
And on Glenwood, somewhere between Beltran, Wyoming, and Washington Street, you're going up or down a hill, depending on which direction you're going in, and you're going around a curve. And what happened is when they repainted the lines, you'll go around that curve and there's a huge jog in the road. So you think you're on the correct side of the road, in your lane, and all of a sudden you realize you're on the wrong side of the road, or potentially on the wrong side of the road. People go up that road too fast, in my opinion. It's curvy, it's narrow,
Yep.
and that needs to be fixed and redone because, as I said, I think when you're going up this street, up from Oak Road, going toward Highland, I think it's, you're in your lane, and all of a sudden, because of that change of jog line, your lane narrows so much, and you're now over the yellow line. So that has to be fixed. I'm surprised there hasn't been an accident there.
Okay. Well, let's see what Mr. Knox has to say about that. Was there another question?
Yeah, well, I have a comment about crime, because my property was one of the properties that had been broken into and entered in 2015.
Okay.
And I actually was there at the time. By the time I figured out that that's what that person's intent was, and it was reported, et cetera, et cetera. And I know at the time we were told that people from outside of Malden come and they can come by the train, and I understand all that. Because I saw this person, they actually got into part of the house and did take things. And I happened to see this person, and I believe I've seen this person several times in the same neighborhood, and I did report it. I reported it actually another time. I think the person was doing the same thing to a neighbor's house, and I did call and report it. I didn't hesitate. By the time the police did come, the person had turned around and walked away. And what my comment is that I think this person, I also think I saw him on the train on a Saturday afternoon, but departing from Malden. And I have a feeling that this man, because he's male, lives not too far away in another neighborhood. And of course, I can't determine that, but what I'm trying to say is, it's very well that people from outside of Malden.
But the first one, I first want to acknowledge Councilor Craig Spatafora. He's also joined us here this evening. I think the most important one is the crime, so let me have Captain Cronin come up on that, and then we'll have Bob Knox speak to the lines on Glenwood Street, okay?
Thank you.
I would say, that's why I want Captain to ensure, this has been a drive of mine for the past couple of years, is that when you do contact us, they should be identifying who they are. So if you're not treated accordingly, we have a means of trying to address, whether you were treated poorly by us. So I'm not sure.
I don't want to get that impression.
Yeah, I'm not saying you are, but it sounded like you, on the people hanging around, the dispatcher sounded unconcerned.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get a sort of, a more active
Sure.
response.
Yeah. If you don't feel like you're getting an active response, or you don't feel like you're being treated the way you should, please let us know, because you should be able to identify who's speaking to you. So if that's not the case, we also would like to know that as well. But let's get back to I think the crux, which is the first part of your question on that individual. And you might have to talk to the captain offline to maybe figure out more specifics about who he is and where he is and what his status is. But I think the captain can at least address globally what people should be doing in their day-to-day activities to prevent crime.
Yeah, back to that, when you did call the police station, the officer is required to say his name when they do. So I don't know if when we do talk offline, if you remember his name at all.
Are you talking about the break-in? Or you talking about
No, we're talking about when you were looking for that response with the people around the building.
I probably have the name of the dispatcher or the police officer that I spoke to. I do take notes like that.
You'll
Yeah.
get this card after.
Yeah.
It's not on the
Yep.
top of my head, but I may have it.
Okay.
But
We would hope, when someone calls the station and reports any suspicious activity, just because you don't see a police car doesn't mean one was sent.
I didn't go back down there either, so I didn't follow up by going back down there by myself.
Right. No, we want everybody to call. If you see something suspicious like that, you usually have to go with your gut instinct, and we want you to call. And I would recommend that you do call 911. Don't feel as though it's because you don't think it's an emergency. It could be. So don't hesitate to call 911. We will send somebody, and I'm sure once I check on this, I'm sure that somebody responded and checked the area, but we can talk offline, and I'll find out exactly what happened on that particular call.
On the other issue of the person, can you just restate that first part of your question? The person, you think you know who it is?
With the breaking and entering?
Yeah.
Well, I don't personally know them, but I believe that I've seen the same person several times. I believe they went to another house in the neighborhood and just to share with everyone else. This particular person rings your doorbell. And they ring your doorbell to see if somebody's home. In this instance, anyway, I won't go into all this, but they
Right.
ring your doorbell to see if you're home. And they think if you're not home, that's when they attempt to get into your property. And
Right, that's a common method. They ring the bell, they walk around like they're gonna do work on the house, things like that, trying to make sure that nobody's home. But if you had the opportunity, I don't know if there's a pattern when you see this individual, if you could ever even snap a picture of him with your phone without
Well,
him knowing.
I tried to do that on the
the subway, he had a winter hat on and a coat, and he seemed very nervous when I got on the train. And I was trying to, but I didn't want to draw attention to myself. So I didn't happen to have a cell phone with me another time that I had seen him, but I'll be more
Yep.
alert. The gentleman likes warmer weather, I think, and if I see him again, I will try to get a picture of him.
Yeah, absolutely. Call
I
911.
put myself in jeopardy by aiming
Bob.
him around.
Bob's going to speak to the Glenwood Street.
Thank you.
So where you're referring to is on Glenwood Street, just about by Wyoming Avenue. If you're aware of the situation, we paved Glenwood Street, that portion from Washington Street to almost that same area, going back a couple of years. And after a while, we had to have the center lines done. I know the area you're specifically speaking about, and we'll have them change it this year. What they did is they left a break in the two lines. And after I called the company to say I had a few residents call with concerns that the same thing that you're referring to, they went back and put that kind of line out there that wasn't so perfect. So this year when they come back, we'll have them grind it out and connect the lines.
You had a guess, Bob, when would that be?
Sometime within probably May.
Does that answer your question? So we'll have that addressed in May.
Mary,
Carol?
I'm sorry, but seriously, there could be a head-on collision before that.
Yeah.
That's very dangerous.
Well, we've scheduled the work. You know, they can only come out at a certain time. I think it's a certain temperature. So,
This is really very, very dangerous.
yeah, the director's aware of it, and he's made it a priority. He's already scheduled it. So when the company does come out here, that'll be the first thing they do. Other questions we can answer?
Yes.
Someone that hasn't asked a question. We'll take seconds,
Okay.
but I want to get to everybody that hasn't asked a question. We'll go here and then we'll go there. Is that all right? Okay, go right ahead.
Fine, fine.
What is the plan for the circle on Bellevue East and
Right.
Hollandale?
Sure. This is Highland and Fellsway, about the accidents we've had. Yeah, we know the issue, Cole. We've been working with Council Matheson on this, and thanks to State Senator Jason Lewis, he has helped navigate the conundrum that exists between what's a city road and what's a state road, and has been able to forge a study that is required by the Department of Conservation and Recreation in order to make any modifications to that area. As part of the application, there is a required match that the city would have to appropriate in order to bring the study to fruition. We've been working with the council on this, and I'm here tonight to announce that we have agreed to the match requirements as requested by DCR. As a matter of fact, they've already commenced the work where they're now taking traffic control data and things like that, and eventually they'll come out with a list of recommendations. We're a little leery of getting involved with this only because of our overall budget situation, and my fear is whatever those recommendations that may be that come out of the study, I'm not sure we're going to be in a position to fund them, but I think I've been convinced enough that, be that as it may, we should probably, at a minimum, because it's probably good to know exactly what the issues that are causing the problems there. So, again, I'm here tonight to let you know we are moving forward, despite our current budget situation. So the study, we have someone actually here from DCR. Where's Mahindra? Right here. So he's a traffic engineer with DCR who owns the road. And he's going to serve point for us at the state level to coordinate the study of the area. And once the study's done and the recommendations are prepared, we'll share those with you and the council to figure out, what the next steps may be. And if you had to guess, Mahinda, how long would the study take?
We're planning to finish in this fiscal year, so hopefully that works that way.
So by June 30th?
That's why
Yeah,
we
so
are
we plan to have the information back by June 30th.
And then will there be another meeting about it?
Yeah, well, we'll work with the council to figure out how to disseminate the information. And again, my fear is just if the recommendations are what I think they might be, is how to proceed forward. And you'll for sure understand that once our budget's submitted, our city budget, to the council mid-April. I also just want to share that we have our state representative here, Stephen Altrino, as well. Maybe I should meet with the Ward 3 residents all the time. It's a great turnout by all of our elected officials. So we want to go here next.
Yeah, I have a number of concerns about traffic.
Okay.
Speeding and traffic violations.
Sure.
There are some particular parts of our neighborhood that are horrific.
Mm-hmm.
I drive up and down Dexter twice a day for daycare every day. At Dexter and Clifton, it's a T-bus stop, it's a school bus stop, and at least once a week, I am almost hit by a car that goes right through the stop sign.
Okay.
Right, like, a couple weeks ago, I was almost sandwiched between two pickup trucks.
Okay.
That just both flew right through there.
Yep.
I've called the police station about it after my daughter was in elementary school and used that bus stop.
Yep.
I used to get out even when my daughter was in 8th grade and should have been plenty old enough to stand at a bus stop. I used to get up and stand because someone's going to get hurt there. I know there have been accidents there. There was an accident there when the kids were standing there waiting for the bus. I've made phone calls. I know a number of the citizens have, voiced concerns about it. And I know you can't police
Right.
how people drive.
Mhm.
I mean, people are horrific drivers. But something needs to be done.
Do you have any suggestions, or have you heard of any?
I don't know if maybe a stop sign also at Hawthorne and Clifton. I mean, cars just fly back
Yep.
there. They also fly on Glenwood. I know we put the speed monitor up for a while, but, and it's hard because there's not a lot of sidewalk, there's not,
Right.
there's not really a light path along there. I don't think that location was the greatest because cars had already curved and speed set up and down that hill
Sure.
when they got to the speed sign.
Mhm.
We have a lot of school kids, we have a lot of parents going to and from daycares in the neighborhood, and I'm just ready today when something really bad happens. But
Okay.
Glenwood Street, that whole curvy stretch, Clifton and Dexter, and also Pearl and Eastern Avenue, that light, once a week I see a car just go right through that light.
Okay. Well, the police, yeah, I'm not sure either, but we can at least hear from our officials here. Chief Kevin Mullis is the chairperson of the Malden Traffic Commission. I think Captain Cronin, who actually, to his credit, not only is the patrol commander, but he deals a lot with traffic issues himself. And Bob Knox, who is an advisor to the Traffic Commission, could also maybe speak to some of the intersections in question. He is charged with monitoring all of our traffic boxes, traffic controls, to try and, maybe tweak the timing or something to that effect. So I think between the both of them, they might be able to speak on some of those intersections. We definitely know about Dexter and Clifton. And again, after this meeting, we're not going to solve, all of our problems tonight, but if you think of something that might make sense for us, don't hesitate to email us or contact us to let us know. So let me bring, do you want to?
Also, Summer and Glenwood.
Yeah.
Am I remembering right that there used to be blinking lights there? Yellow lights when you were on Glenwood?
Yeah.
Why is that not there anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're coming down Summer and trying to turn onto Glenwood,
Yeah.
you put your light in your hand.
Okay. Well, let's have both these officials come up, and then we'll get to the next question. You want to come up, Bob, as well?
Yeah, I mean, I can address the stop sign situation, Dexter, Clifton. I mean, a lot of the intersections, when we assign a traffic officer there, they're based on statistics. Of course, the intersections with the most accidents are going to get the most attention. There are a lot of intersections in Malden. We have 2 traffic officers assigned. I do remember assigning Officer Clementi to Dexter, Clifton for a while. Of course,
There during school bus time, I'll tell you that, because I've made that request multiple times. This is a few years ago, this is going back.
right, no, but very recently.
I made the request multiple times, and I never saw an officer present there during.
Well, just recently, I did get a request, and Officer Clementi was sent there. He cited one violator in about 3 hours. It's a lot of times it's you're in the right place at the right time, and someone speeds right through the stop sign, and it's tough for us to be in that place at that time.
Oh, I understand that.
But I will put an extra emphasis on that at that intersection. On Glenwood Street with the speeding, a lot of times, and I've done speed surveys over the past 22 years. I've done laser speed surveys on Beefview Ave and Elwell Street, where a lot of the people that lived in the area thought that the cars were speeding. When you're on a street like Glenwood, where there are hills and there are also curves in that hill, a lot of it, and I'm not saying they're not speeding, because a lot of them do, but a lot of it is perception. And because people are on the sidewalk and you've got a car coming around a curve quick, it looks like they're going, I know it sounds crazy, but it looks like they're going faster than they really are. And the reason we had to set the radar machine up where it was is because the radar, if on a curve, it won't pick up the speed of the car, you'll see nothing. It needs a minimum distance to pick the car up and then signal the speed. But I have had him out there enforcing even on motorcycle on Glenwood Street as much as he possibly can. But as you would imagine, I get a lot of calls through the traffic department, and I've got them going everywhere all over the city. So it's tough to do, but I'll put emphasis on Glenwood Street. I'll put an emphasis on Dexter and Clifton. Summer at Glenwood, I know once the school was out, they took that flashing light out because the school was gone. Glenwood.
And a couple of other notes, the Clifton Street area at Dexter by the Rockland Nursery, also that intersection and also Clifton at Hawthorne, we put the portable signs in the middle of the street for the crosswalks to hopefully slow down cars. And I can tell you, Councilman Matheson has had many conversations with me regarding Glenwood Street. We've added speed limit signs up there, also slow children signs. We put about a dozen of them up there. And also Councilman Matheson went to the Traffic Commission to have a mirror installed up on Glenwood Street. So there's been a lot of attention to the safety of Glenwood Street. And other than being there exactly at the time when a car is there, the city's not looking the other way. We're trying to do everything we can to help make it safe for everyone. And like I say, your councilor has come to the Traffic Commission numerous times on that specific street.
What was the one on Easton? Easton and what?
I think it's Pearl.
Pearl Street at the light.
Talking about Route 60.
Pearl Center.
Yeah, right on the street, right on the street.
Yeah. All right. By the way, Councilor Condit, we spoke off line. He doesn't have the Ward 2 stats, but he'll share those with you at some moment after the meeting sometime. Other questions?
I could say if you put a camera at Dexter and Clifton, you could generate a lot of money because how many cars run that stop?
Well, unfortunately, it's illegal. We've been pushing the state. We've been advocates now for 10 years of doing red light photo enforcement. Red light photo enforcement, which I think you all know is used in other parts of the country, not only sends violations for running red lights, but they also have a speed package. But, you know, I think the state's still trying to navigate how do you do it with insurance and all that stuff. But we're huge proponents of it because, like the captain said, we're never going to be able to be everywhere that we want to be. That technology would help us immensely. So, other questions?
In the morning between 7 to 8 o'clock in the Bellswing.
Yeah.
I live in Bow Street and come out from Lyons. I have to watch my clock. It takes 3 minutes and no people turn in the Bellswing because the car just fly by. I thought that section was 25 miles. I checked it myself several times. If people drive 25, you see the car.
They could not make it to Wiley Street if they're driving 25. So is there any way we can put the speed monitors, like how people won't slow down? Because the neighborhood people could not make it out in that morning session.
Okay. Do you understand that?
What street is it that you're coming on?
Wiley.
Wiley. Okay.
It's just
Onto the Fellsway. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, what I'll do as well, I patrolled that area for years on a motorcycle. I've written thousands of citations, not specifically in the Fellsway, but in general. I'm familiar with the way speed enforcement works, and it has to be intermittent. We can't be there every day for 2 weeks because as soon as we're gone, they start speeding again. But what I'll do is I'll call the state police and request extra speed enforcement from them, and I will get our officer, Bobby Clementi, to be up there in that area in the morning to see what he can do as far as slowing them down with some citations.
Other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Let me go right here and then.
just a question. Do you have a statistic on how many accidents have happened at that circle?
At Highland and Fells?
Island and Fellsway, yeah. Miley Street.
In the past 5 years, just a raw number is 58 accidents that we were called for. That doesn't mean that we did the report because the large majority of them were on the state. So they handled the accident, but we did respond there 58 times in 5 years.
How does that contrast with other similar
Intersections.
areas in the city? Is it higher, lower?
Well,
It's
similar,
higher, it's an inordinate amount, absolutely. So it is a major concern for us.
now, when he says similar areas, volume-wise or
Accident-wise or volume-wise?
or street size? I mean, what are we
There is a large volume of traffic on that airspace in the morning and the afternoon. I'm sure everybody here knows that. So it is, it's a volume issue.
But as compared to Highland and Medford Street, is it more traffic or less?
I don't have the statistics on that, but I would say more.
You would say more?
Yeah.
So again, we have our traffic engineer from DCR if you want to talk to him a little bit after the meeting. But again, you've convinced us and we gave the authorization to move forward on the study. We'll see what becomes of it and act accordingly. I can also say that tomorrow night, we'll get to your question, Brian, next. We will be submitting the annual Community Development Block Grant to the City Council. That's a federally administered grant that we receive on a yearly basis and allows us to do some projects that we couldn't otherwise do with city funds. So while I'm here with all of you, we will be submitting the application tomorrow night, and one of the components will be an additional $25,000 to firm up the shoreline at Fellsmere Pond. Most of you that I think frequent it have noticed under Director Knox's leadership, we've been able to do a lot of curbing there to tidy up the shoreline. Well, this is going to finish that off through our proposal tomorrow night. Now, the City Council will have to act on it, but we know this is important to the residents of Ward 3. We've talked to the councilor in the past, so it will be submitted formally tomorrow night to them. Go ahead, Mr. DeLisi.
Can we get a commitment tonight that there'll be a public hearing when the traffic study is available for review for the community?
Yeah, I did bring that up with the traffic engineer prior to the meeting based on your remarks to me. He said typically with traffic studies, there aren't public hearings per se. And again, maybe he can elaborate on that after the meeting. But I think we would leave it to the counselor to determine once the feedback is garnered, what steps to take next.
We can have a community update after that becomes available.
Yeah. So you can coordinate that. And again, he's here as well to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks.
Someone else have a question down below?
It was me.
Okay, go right ahead.
Now, on Glenwood Road, yeah, is there a size vehicle that's, not allowed there because they have some huge trucks that pass by?
Mm-hmm. So size limits, I don't think there are.
No limit, because the ladies up told me that there was, like things that are, carrying goods and things like that.
We know
so
the issue.
It's not allowed then, it's not true. Okay.
Yeah, that's not true.
Okay, thank you. It is allowed.
I want to add that a member of my family was hit by a car coming down and the car was sort of lost.
Okay.
This is a few years back. But I am also concerned about a couple of houses that I know in the neighborhood being used as rooming houses, that we have lots of unrelated people living in those, and I don't know if the city is aware, something that I would discuss, I would be prepared to discuss more after the meeting.
Okay, yeah, why don't you track me down, or I'll track you down after the meeting, and I'll take the information from you. We do have a problem properties unit that meets every 2 weeks in the mayor's conference room at 10 a.m. It's on a Wednesday morning. Meetings are posted at cityofmalden.org, and we discuss exactly what you just outlined to us. That is rooming houses, illegal rooming homes, houses with code violations, and we bring all the city officials together: fire, police, legal, redevelopment authority, board of health, people from my office, and we keep a running list and we try to address them at our level. Now, if we can't, then we go to court. And so we've had a pretty good success rate, so I appreciate you stepping forward, and make sure we talk after, and we'll check that out and get back to you either way to let you know whether or not there was a rooming house or not. And those are public meetings, if you wanted to attend one. We've had some residents recently attend just to watch and to learn just what, this unit does with respect to illegal rooming and code violations.
I attended the meeting about the Airbnb on the corner of Glenwood and
Yep.
Hawthorne, so we're all aware of that
Sure.
situation, I'm quite sure. But that continues with the cars from New Hampshire, from Connecticut, from, and then there's a girl who is from Glenwood Street who parks right on the corner. Honestly, no fire truck could ever make that corner if we needed them to. No way, on any given day. That house has anywhere from 7 to 9 cars daily. Daily. And then all their friends come on the weekend, and then we go straight up on the Fellsway with just their friends, with no consideration to anybody who lives there.
Yeah.
It's really a pain.
Well,
And then with concern on that whole Highland Ave Fellsway, because I got hit there a month ago myself, a kid slammed right into us when we were going. And the traffic going down the Fellsway. I think that people have reached a feverish pitch in the commute everywhere. Reason being, we have overbuilt the area. The Fellsway, the Assembly Square, the now Meadowland. It's a sea of people, cars, people trying to get to work. They have to get to work, they can't get to work. Everybody is totally frustrated. So by the time they come down the Fellsway, they've already probably been in front of Melrose High for an hour. Everybody's had it, so they're blowing through everything because they're so frustrated that they need to get to work and they have these commitments and they can't meet them. So I think it's more a level of frustration than it is people trying to break the law on purpose. I think everybody's we're overbuilt and we don't have the roads to accommodate this kind of influx of people and cars. And I'm going to write a book. It's going to be called "It's All Too Much," because that's where we've come now. It's, we're apped out, we're peopled out, we're just done.
Well, I can't speak for Somerville and Medford, but I know here in Malden, most of our development has been under this domain of transit-oriented.
No, fine, but we have to get through these
Understood.
areas to
Understood.
get to
Yep.
where we all need to go to Boston.
Well, let me get to something I think we can answer. And regarding the first issue you spoke about, Glenwood Street. We have been following the lead of Councilor Craig Spatafora. I know he attended the hearing and has been serving a point for us on the matter. And so I just want to know if, Councilor, you want to add an update as to where that issue stands. I believe it's in court, if I remember correctly.
That's correct, Mayor. So there is, I don't want to get into the legal
Sure.
of this, but there's a case out there right now. There's a case that set precedent with Worcester Public Tech, I believe, that the judge allowed the houses to act as rooming houses. However, our angle here is twofold. One is the fire department, I believe, has cited them because anything over, I think it's 6 people in a house has to have fire sprinklers, right?
More than 4.
More than
yeah.
4, so they don't have any fire sprinklers, so they're gonna go after them for that matter of public safety. I believe the legal department sent that out maybe 2 weeks ago, so we're assuming that will also be brought to court. And the final piece of the puzzle is, and I hate to bring it up because there's always 2 sides of it, but we're looking to bring residential parking. Because I think to everybody's point here, there are too many cars in the street, there's not enough spaces, and an instance up where you live, where you have students living here, that's 6 students, they're parking there. The only way we can do this, to be quite honest with you, is to have some type of residential parking, and is to control the commuters and these apartment buildings. I mean, I think everybody in Ward 3 and Ward 4, anybody who lives near a train, could probably look out their window if they're not on a street right now that is under some type of parking control. So Elm Street, as per everybody knows, there's parking, you have to have a resident parking to park there. But it's a domino effect, whether it's 3, 2, or 4. If you live near the transit, I get calls once a week from somebody saying, there's a gentleman on East Water Road, just got out of his car, he's got a skateboard and he's going down the street, or somebody in Ward 6 getting out of his car, and he's taking the bus to go to Ward, go to the train station.
Yeah.
So the only way we can do this is to look at residential parking. All the communities around us have done it, we're doing it, and my goal is to have something before the council by the end of June, and then the mayor's task force is something that I think all the councils here share the pain with those illegal apartments and rooming houses, so it's a two-pronged approach.
Yeah, we actually have a city council sitting on that problem properties unit. She's Peg Crow from 1-1. But we're with you. I think you know from our staff, we have Maria Luis there working with Council Spatafora and others to see what we can do to thwart this. So we'll let you know once we hear something back from the courts. Other questions, Carol? And then we'll come below.
I just want to comment on Council Spatafora's citywide parking. I really do hope, I'm sorry, I'm totally against it, but that there's going to be public hearings. I know this was brought up a few years ago.
Sure.
They could not come to, you know, it's the hours, it was
Number of visitor passes.
24/7.
Yeah.
I'd like to know really what the laws are right now on the books, what the cost is, and then going forward, because I don't feel that the citizens should be punished because you can't figure out, maybe a few people are, you know, you can't figure out as far as the parking issues. But, so let's punish the whole city and make it citywide parking. And I just feel like we might as well just put a gate around this city because I don't know what else is left. And I think a lot of it has to do because the T is here. So because the T is here, we're going to punish the residents by saying citywide parking. So I'd really like to read that over. I'd like to really hear from people before you start putting this into
Okay, well, that'll be a separate forum, but, okay, so noted. Right here.
The talk about parking made me think about too, is there still, I know when I learned to drive a million years ago, there's a law about how close to an intersection you can park. Is that in effect?
Yes.
All right, if you want to make some money, go to Woodland, Glenwood. Glenwood. You can't get in and out of the street half the time.
Yeah.
I think it's the same over by Hawthorne and Glenwood, but.
Yeah, no, we know the issue.
You could make a
Yeah.
good amount of money just by ticketing those cars.
Yeah, we
Or
know
can
that
we just
code.
put
We've been
up-
doing it, actually.
Can we put up more signs that say no parking near the corner, so, you know,
Yeah.
there's notification? I know there was a report on C-Click Fix about Maple and Dexter recently, and there was a response to that, which is
Right.
great, but,
Okay.
yeah, it's just, all these little things add up to
No
make
doubt.
it dangerous
No doubt.
to try to drive. and-
That's why we're here tonight. I mean, we're taking
Yeah.
copious notes, so. Do we have any other questions? It's 7:10, so we're doing pretty well. These meetings generally last about an hour or so,
I just need some recommendations here. I live on Dexter Street, I'm Elizabeth Paquette. It's coming up toward spring and summer, and as I call them, the nutters are gonna be out. And about 8 o'clock, somewhere on Thursday night, you can see the drug deals going up and down Dexter Street. It's usually, last year it was a couple of white cars, every year it's something different. Do I call the 911 number, or do I call the other number?
You should.
Because,
The most important thing is that you do call.
yeah,
We have a drug tip hotline. In that scenario, I wouldn't use it. In those scenarios, we like to actually get an unmarked car right over there. Captain Gackham is in charge of the detectives and all the unmarked units. He would have the drug unit there as fast as they could. So if you wanted to call 911, that would be the most effective phone call you could make.
Who wants to speak to them? I'm just going to have Captain Cronin speak to the people too about the use of surveillance. The costs have significantly come down, and do you recommend homeowners where possible to have a small surveillance system? Have you found that to be helpful to you and Captain Gecko?
Absolutely. This has happened a few times with certain restaurants in the city. Some of the windows were getting broken. I suggested that they get a portable camera system. They thought they were too expensive. They thought they were cost prohibitive. We went online. We were able to get them cameras as low as $97 to catch somebody breaking their windows. So anybody can go online and find a quality surveillance system that can tie right into your laptop. There are now systems that you will alert your phone. You can have it even set up on your porch or in your house. A motion sensor. Someone's in your house, your phone will let you know. You can have the camera watching them. Just recently on Main Street, an apartment building on Main Street, we had believe it or not, the chief of police from Plymouth called and he said, my son lives on Main Street in Malden. He just called me and said he's looking at his cell phone from work and it appears as though someone is in his kitchen and they just stole a scratch ticket off the counter. So we went there, we found the individual. He happened to be a newly hired maintenance man, and not too trustworthy. But we arrested him on the spot. We were able to get hold of the video on the scene. It was a slam dunk case for us. So surveillance, if you can afford it and you can get it, it's something that's worth every penny. So I would suggest everybody get it.
And short of that, if you didn't want to do video surveillance, I think the light sensors are also a big help police have found in preventing crime. So other questions? I can tell you too, on the camera situation, Malden now has 30 city surveillance cameras up and running. And again, that's credit to the city council who have been advocating for additional cameras. So we have those pretty much up all around the community, and those two have been helpful to the police in not so much preventing crime, but catching people who commit crimes.
Just wondering, do you have a kind of a ballpark figure? I know gasoline prices are down.
Mm-hmm.
The plowing was probably down.
Yeah.
Are we saving money in DPW wise, and because of the associated costs?
Yes, but not enough, as you can imagine. Our revenues will no longer support our expenses. And so when we submit this next budget, we are either going to have to meet the existing revenues on the expense side or generate new revenue. And so that's a discussion that began a couple weeks ago with the City Council through our financial team presenting a 5-year outlook. And it's going to be a challenge for us. So yes, the winter though did help us, but just it's not going to be enough to do everything that we need to do or want to do in next year's city budget. And I can tell you another reason that compounded the problem. If you recall, last year we spent about $1.7 million on snow and ice removal. Because of our ongoing budget situation, we elected to adopt a state law that emanated due to last year's horrific storms, whereby we amortized the costs of last year's deficit over 3 years. So before the first snowflake fell this year, we were already 581 in the hole. So that plus this year's costs, it would have been so much better, but again, we're trying to keep core services intact, and those are sometimes the steps you elect to do that. Sure.
So of the 1.7 that you just mentioned, how much of that was recovered from FEMA, given the forgiveness for the 48-hour grace period?
Yep, good question. FEMA, from last year's storms, reimbursed us only for the first storm. And we just got the paperwork to be reimbursed, so it's roughly $200,000 out of the 1.7. So I think, as you recall, Governor Baker was trying to collapse all the storms and get the federal government to treat them all as one, but to no avail. So we did just get the paperwork on that January storm of 2015. Other questions we can answer for you tonight? Councilor Miller?
I'm not sure if this is happening in Ward 3, but something that's happening in Ward 4, especially along the train tracks, we've had a huge rat problem because of the mild winter that we've had. I know it's not necessarily public safety, but it is public health.
Sure.
Do you know if there's anything that we can do as a city to kind of combat that, to make sure it's not exacerbated? Because I've never experienced rats in the city before until this, like, the last few years.
Yeah, I couldn't speak per se. I think you've been in touch with our Board of Health Director, Chris Webb, and he's talked to you about it, but I know there is one issue that we're going to have to confront as well, and that is the next steps regarding pay-as-you-throw. The good news is we have outgrown the 18-gallon recycling bins, but the bad news is the stuff is blowing and all over the place in our city. So we're gonna have to figure out a way to move to covered bins, not only there, but quite frankly, even on the trash itself. Just this morning on the way into work, all the bags were ripped open by animals and that sort of thing. So I think, the program, for good or for bad, has generated the outcome that was hoped back in 2008, whereby now Malden is recycling 35% of its waste. And if you had to bring that to if you had to dispose of it, you're probably looking at $700,000 to $800,000 that we would have to do that. So globally, you know, we're doing better in that vein, but the problem now is because we're recycling so much, we got to figure out a way to contain it. So I know our Public Works Director is, you want to say a few words about it, because I know the resources you have to dedicate to it. He feels very strongly that at some point the City Council and us are going to have to figure out the next steps in the program. But I think that is contributing as well to the issue you identified.
Yeah, pay as you throw, you know, everyone could talk about this all night long, but to cut it to the problem that I'm seeing now, it's not the bags that are the problem. In my opinion, the problem with the pay as you throw is keeping the recycling material contained. And I can tell you, in the city of Malden, we sweep any day that's above freezing, even all winter long, there's no snow on the ground. We sweep 7 days a week. There's not a community around that sweeps like we do. We follow the trash route. Our regular sweeping schedule doesn't start until May 1st, but as everyone has probably seen, the sweepers are out there 7 days a week to try to keep up with it. One of the strongest things that we talk about is getting rid of those 18-gallon bins that everyone, we've used the term snow cone, where you see all the recycling material snow coned over it, and one little breeze, it's down the gutter line. So we need to get to something that has a cover on it and to contain that material. I think we're moving in the right direction.
The challenge, of course, is how to do it. You know, to purchase all new covered bins. I mean, the estimated prices that are coming back are about $500,000. And again, when you see this budget delivered mid-April, it's going to be tough to do based on our current situation. So we're trying to figure out internally and then with the City Council on what steps we can take.
Have you given any thought to doing what Medford does? Because they've got those big, huge green containers, and I've never seen them fall over. They just don't have enough space in them to handle what people would put into the trash.
Yeah, we have looked at that. The 96, I think they're 96 gallon, right, in Medford? Yeah, 96 gallons. What's the other size, Bob's? 65. So they're using 65 and 96 gallon. Yeah, we have looked at that. And again, it comes back to cost. You know, how to absorb switching over from the open 18-gallon bins to the 65 and 96 gallon. But the other twist that we heard back from residents, at least, you know, from that panel we had put together in 2013, is based on their survey results, is that they found, you know, there are some homes that can never accommodate a 68-gallon or a 96-gallon bin. There are also some people that may live alone and they're only recycling 20 gallons or 25 gallons. So, you know, why should they have to use a 65 or a 96 gallon bin? So that's another factor why I think we haven't done what Medford has done just yet. But we are researching it. We've been going back and forth with our hauler, which is JRM Inc. And we've been talking to the City Council on exactly what to do. But that's why we haven't as of yet. Other questions?
I think aesthetically, those are horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, if you live in Boxford, they're awesome. You have a garage, you have a big driveway.
And that's what
you don't have that, so now in Medford, everybody's got these trash bins in front of their nice homes.
Yeah, that's what the panel concluded. If you look at our report, it was generated in 2013, which we submitted to the council for their review, but it clearly stated in there, based on their survey results, that it came back very forcefully what you just said. You know, they either don't have the room or the aesthetics of what a 96-gallon bin would look like.
And you have to get in just a little walkway to your back, because I don't want to see trash from anybody's house.
Right.
You can't get that back into the back of your house in the winter.
Well, that's why one idea we're toying with is just leave it to the residents. Whether or not they use a 15-gallon or a 20-gallon or whatever it may be, maybe they're in the best position to know what's required to do their recycling. But that's why, you know, one of the difficulties we're having in just saying, okay, from here on in, you ought to use 40 gallons or else. So we're wrestling with all those things. But it has to happen because I think of what the Public Works Director told you, the stuff's everywhere, you know. So, other questions? Councilor Conner?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we speak to, you'll see around the city, a lot of people use their own barrels, and we have bumper stickers available at the city yards. So
Sure.
we give out for nothing. I think a lot of people are unaware that they can use a barrel, put the bumper sticker on, and be recycled.
Yeah. I mean, he's exactly right. And that may be, you know, one way of moving forward. You know, we just want to make sure that we consult with you and your colleagues to figure out whether or not that is the best path. But something has to give. You know, just this morning I was aghast at the stuff being all over the street just by a little wind. I mean, this wasn't even a major wind day and the stuff was everywhere. So, okay, we'll just take a few more questions. Let me go to Mr. Weston and I'll come back to you. He hasn't asked a question yet, so I always try to get to people that haven't asked a question.
Just a comment on the trash blowing out, or the recycling blowing away. A lot of people put their stuff out way too early.
Yep.
Especially I would notice to see this street. I don't want to pick anybody down there, but we get a lot of rental properties down there that come by noontime Wednesday for a Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
So by the 24 hours go by, a lot of it's actually blown down the street to the front of the fire station.
Sure.
So
Yeah, if you look at...
now enforcing the ordinance that says you can't put it out until X time.
Yeah, that's why if you look at that report that was submitted in 2013, it also speaks to that, of having someone, sort of a ombudsman person, a 24/7 person that would be doing what you're saying, which is going around and making sure that people are being educated about what can be recycled, what can't be recycled, what time it can go out, and et cetera. So.
But it's on the books, and basically you just got to drive around every so often. You know what streets where they're gonna, the problem, you know where the problems are going to be.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
it's now being a little more proactive and say, hey, I should go up this street today.
Yeah, we just don't have the capacity right now to dedicate someone solely to that, but the report did encourage us doing so. But again, when you see the budget mid-April, you'll know why we can't do that right at this moment. Go right ahead.
Well, I think another factor in the trash problem involved is got to do with the lack of trash barrels in the public. And I know some of them were removed when the pay to throw away was made it an ordinance, and we can better educate people to throw away the trash instead of throwing it on the ground.
Mhm.
But there are often no places to throw away any trash in the streets, and I think that contributes greatly to the trash flying around.
I would respectfully disagree. I think and Mr. Knox can speak to his program on when barrels are put back out for the parks, but I know working with the city council, if I could just finish, working with the city council, you know, we have engaged a vendor now that is supplying the city, I think with 25 or 30 of those public receptacles at no cost to us. They have plastic recycling, small trash, and, you know, they give us, you know, those at no cost. As a matter of fact, they pay us a small percentage to have the receptacles in Malden. We're getting actually ready to put another 5 out this spring, summer. But I want to call the Public Works Director up because he gets the same question that you've outlined. And I know he's aggressive on making sure that all of our parks and public areas seasonally have the receptacles to dispose of trash.
That may be the parks, but that's not necessarily the city streets, and I know in my own
Well, again, we have 25 of those receptacles out. We're hoping to put more out this spring, summer.
Not only of the COA barrels that the mayor's referring to that are for trash and recycling, also we've had councilors buy barrels, and the city puts out over 50 barrels on the square area alone. So majority of the main arteries in the squares, Malden Square, Maple Square, Salem Street, Highland Avenue, they all have barrels. The problem is we need to educate the customers to use them. We empty the barrels 7 days a week, Saturdays and Sundays included. We have a shift now at the DPW of 2 men and a supervisor working Sundays. Their first assignment of the day is to empty all the city barrels. Now, as far as parks barrels, we put them out in April this year because we've had a good winter. We put them out a little earlier in March, and we take them out at Thanksgiving. Normally, we don't want to leave them in there for the winter months, but I can tell you, we spend a lot of time and efforts with emptying trash barrels and picking up trash in the city of Malden, which I think could be minimized if we had the recycling containers covered. Thank you.
I just want to comment on that, sir, that I know in Oak Grove, personally, there was a barrel, a beautiful black barrel that the city probably paid for in this intersection there, and it disappeared, unfortunately, because people were putting their personal trash there. So I know that was a problem. I saw people, I would comment and tell people they couldn't do that. They would do it anyway, but it's a result of the pay to throw away.
Mhm.
And so you've either got overflowing barrels that are public,
Sure.
which is a problem in itself, and I can appreciate that, or you don't have any barrels and you've got trash on the ground anyway, or you have people who throw away their personal trash on a side street, you know, if they're not seen. So it's a problem, obviously, with many sides to it, and it just seems like we have a lot more trash involved than we used to. And
Yeah, understood, so noted. It is a conundrum, but, you know, we could do simply what other cities and towns are doing, and that's just, you know, implement a trash fee. You know, our sister city, Melrose, they have a trash fee. They're not really interested in what you recycle or how you recycle. You're just going to pay them that trash fee per year. I mean, I was an opponent of the program back in 2008, but, you know, 5 years, 6 years later, whatever it is, you know, I can see where one thing about the program, it allows people to control their own destiny. You know, that if they recycle a lot, then it's minimal. Again, other cities and towns, flat trash fee. They don't care what you do. So I could see that side of the program. Let me just ask you, based on what Councilor Condon said, how many of you here do own a barrel yourself? Okay. All right, well, any other questions that we can answer before we wrap up? Sir?
Just more curiosity, on Bellsway East from the Rotary at Highland Ave, Bellsway coming down towards 7.
Yep.
I noticed recently there's a couple of lines that come across the road. Are they monitoring or metering something?
Okay. Would that be from you, Mahendra? Is that for the traffic study, Mahendra?
So line, something they did today, what I learned from the consultant designer, they're supposed to put out the counter this evening to do the traffic counts.
So it's related to the study. Yeah.
So they basically just count the amount of cars that go through there?
Well, initially, I think they're going to do a traffic count, which will drive, I think, their next
So
series.
that's when cars come out of those side streets along the way?
Would it include that, Mahendra? Or
No,
is it-
only they are supposed to do at the Rotary or whatever circle you want to say, at the Fellsway East and Highland Ave. That's the only intersection they are supposed to do the traffic count in that.
So they wouldn't be doing traffic counts out of side streets onto the Fellsway or anything like that?
They will do on Highland Ave, right at the crossing.
Yeah.
They will see which car coming from which direction and where it's going. So they will do on Highland Ave as well as Fellsway East.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Sure.
Okay. You know what we should do too is after the meeting, please grab a card from Mahendra. He's going to be a point person again on the study. So if you had some thoughts that you couldn't get out tonight, I'm sure he would be, you know, interested in hearing what you had to say about the Rotary. Anything else I can answer tonight before we break? I know we have some homework assignments. I'm going to see you after, right? I'll get the information from you. Going once, going twice. Okay, if not, we just want to say thank you for having us and thank you for making all the official.